Thomas puffed across the countryside. Even with his light on, Thomas knew he had to be very careful. Thomas found James broken down on the track. "Hello, busted boiler," teased Thomas. "You don't look very useful now." James was upset. But when Thomas got behind James, he couldn't see ahead. "You will have to look out for me," said Thomas. James was cross. "You said I wasn't useful," he pouted. "But if the fireworks don't get to Knapford Station," puffed Thomas, "the display will be canceled." James didn't want the children to be sad, so he agreed to look out for Thomas, and they set off together. When the track was straight and clear, James called out, "Go faster, Thomas!" And Thomas did. They were soon working happily together and making good time. Sir Topham Hatt checked his watch. There was still no sign of Thomas or James. "It's very late," he thought. "It's almost the children's bedtime." Even Gordon was worried. "I'll have to cancel the display," said Sir Topham Hatt. So the disappointed children started to board the coaches. At last, they could see the signal lights. The signal had turned red. Thomas and James stopped. "Why would the signal be red?" puzzled James. "Maybe a passenger train is coming through," puffed Thomas. "Gordon must be taking the children back," cried James. Thomas and James were very upset. "We're here!" they cried, and sounded their whistles as loudly as they could. But no one could hear them. The children were all on board. Gordon was ready to depart. Then Thomas had a bright idea. "Send up a rocket," he told his driver. So his driver carefully lit a rocket. He stood well back as it whooshed into the sky. The rocket burst into stars. "A sparkling dragon!" cried Sir Topham Hatt. "It must be Thomas and James." "Stop, Gordon," he said. "The firework display is back on." The junction signal turned to green, and Thomas and James were soon on their way. James and Thomas were soon at the station. The children cheered. "Good work, Thomas!" cried James happily. "And good work, James," agreed Thomas. "Good work, both of you," boomed Sir Topham Hatt. That night, Thomas and James watched the fireworks together. "I think we are both useful engines," said James proudly. "But we are most useful when we work together," puffed Thomas. Thomas is ready to leave the station. He is tingling with excitement. What's Thomas pulling today? Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears. Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears and teacups. Now Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, and tablecloths. Can you remember what Thomas is tugging? Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, and tablecloths. I wonder what's next. Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, tablecloths, and a teapot. Can you remember all the things that Thomas was tugging? Let's see. Thomas trundles out of the station tugging teddy bears, teacups, tablecloths, and a teapot. Can you guess where Thomas is going? Thomas is trundling to a teddy bear's tea party. Fergus is a small railway traction engine who works on the island of Sodor. One day, he was on his way to the quarry. He had a special job to do for Sir Topham Hatt. "Hello," whistled Thomas. "Where are you going?"
"To the quarry,"
Fergus chuffed happily. "Watch out for Bill and Ben, the twins," said Thomas. "They love to make mischief."
"I won't let young rascals rattle me."
"You don't know the twins like I do," warned Thomas. Fergus arrived at the quarry. He went to work with Mavis and the twins. "I'm afraid the freight cars are in a mess," said Mavis.
"Not to worry, we'll soon sort them out."
Bill and Ben were delighted. "Now we'll have some fun," whistled Ben. "Yeah, we'll have the old boiler in a spin," steamed Bill. Fergus liked helping Mavis, but he didn't like the way the twins were behaving one bit. Bill banged his freight cars hard. Some rocks fell onto the track.
"Do it right!"
Fergus ordered. Bill didn't like being ordered about by a traction engine.
"Don't interfere!"
He snapped back. Then Ben pushed his freight cars to block the line. Fergus was stuck.
"Out of my way!"
steamed Fergus. But Ben just grinned. The next day, the men were blasting rock.
"Wait for the all clear signal,"
Fergus called to Bill and Ben.
"Do it right."
"There he goes again," puffed Bill.
"Do it right. From morning till night." "Keep your funnel out of our quarry," huffed Ben.
The quarrymaster sent Bill and Ben to collect a rock crusher from the harbor. Fergus was left in peace with Mavis. The twins were still thinking about Fergus.
"He's just an old fusspot,"
said Bill.
"He's always saying, 'Do it right.'"
"Well, the next thing he tells us to do," wheezed Bill,
"We'll do it wrong."
They laughed. Bill and Ben steamed back to the quarry. The rock crusher was heavy. It shook the rails as they went.
"The blasting has made that rock face unsafe,"
warned Fergus.
"Don't go near it. Do it right."
But the twins took no notice of Fergus and were very naughty. As roughly as they could, they rattled the load towards the cliff.
"Look out!"
cried Fergus, and he rushed forward, and he bumped Bill and Ben out of the way. His driver jumped to safety as the rocks began to fall. But Fergus was covered in rocks right up to his funnel. It took a long time to dig him out. And no one worked harder to help than Bill and Ben. At last, Fergus was free. Bill and Ben were ashamed.
"We shouldn't have been so naughty,"
said Bill.
"We're very sorry," added Ben.
"Good," smiled Fergus.
"From now on, we can all do it right." together.
Today, Thomas must take a boat to the docks. But he needs to go under a bridge. Which is the best bridge for Thomas to go under? The first bridge is wide enough for Thomas and the boat. But what about the mast? This bridge isn't tall enough. What about this bridge? It's very tall. The mast will fit under that bridge. But is it wide enough? This bridge is much too narrow. What about this bridge? It's very tall, and it's very wide. Thomas can pull the boat under this bridge. Well done, Thomas. All the engines on Sir Topham Hatt's railway like to run on time. Emily is taking some grain to the flour mill. The miller is waiting for Emily. He can't make the flour until Emily has brought him the grain. Emily brings him the grain on time. The flour is soon ready. Then Percy arrives to collect the flour. Percy is on his way. Percy is taking the flour to the baker. The baker is waiting for Percy. He can't bake his bread until Percy brings him the flour. Percy arrives on time. When the bread has been baked, Thomas arrives to collect it. Thomas is on his way. Thomas is taking the bread to market. The market lady is waiting for Thomas. She can't sell the bread until Thomas brings it to market. Thomas arrives on time. Emily took the grain to the mill where it was turned into flour. Then Percy took the flour to the bakery where it was turned into bread. Then Thomas took the bread to market. They all arrived on time. Now everyone can have toast for breakfast. It was cold and snowy on the island of Sodor. The village children had built a snow engine. They were excited. The winter holidays were here. People were coming from far and wide to visit the island. This year, there was even more snow than usual. It covered the island and blocked the roads. Bertie the bus couldn't take any passengers. So Sir Topham Hatt came to Tidmouth Sheds. "Percy, you are to pull the passengers today," said Sir Topham Hatt. Percy was worried. He usually took the mail or shunted freight cars. He hadn't pulled passengers for a long time. "Gordon will show you what to do," said Sir Topham Hatt, and he left. "I'm an express engine," huffed Gordon. "I shouldn't be slowed down by a small engine like Percy." Gordon went with Percy to the depot. But when Percy backed up to collect his coaches, he bumped them very hard. "No, no, no! You need to puff smoothly," Gordon huffed impatiently. "Watch me. You'll soon learn how to pull passengers." Gordon backed smoothly up to his coaches and buffered up to them gently. "Very smooth," said the yard manager. "The best buffering I've ever seen." Gordon was so proud he thought his boiler would burst. Maybe teaching Percy will be fun," Gordon said to himself. "Then he'll see I'm the biggest and the best." Gordon pulled into Knapford Station. He rolled smoothly to a stop. "Perfect," Gordon chuffed. Then Percy pulled into the station. "Look at all those passengers," he gasped. He blew his whistle and wheezed lots of steam. "You're doing it all wrong," huffed Gordon. "Don't wheesh until your passengers are on board. Watch me." Gordon waited. When all the passengers were on board, he wheeshed some steam. Gordon was very proud. He liked showing Percy that he was the best. Gordon was having lots of fun, but Percy wasn't. Percy was fed up. Gordon and Percy puffed across the island. Gordon puffed through the snowy valley.